She spoke calmly when the bluecoats burst in, because she knew they'd been watching long before he did. The apartment was quiet, except for the low hum of the life support systems and the soft tapping of Alara's fingers against the desk. Outside, the pale auroras of the mining colony shimmered across the dark sky, painting everything in shades of green and violet. The colony had been abandoned by most humans years ago, leaving only the most dedicated scientists and engineers. Among them, Alara and her partner Joran had carved a small life inside the decaying steel structure. Alara's eyes never left the screen in front of her. Lines of alien code and encrypted messages scrolled endlessly, but she read them with ease. It was not her first time decoding transmissions that were meant to remain secret. In fact, she knew the bluecoats, the colony's enforcers, had been monitoring her work for months. Every movement, every experiment, every note she had written in her lab journal had been observed. Joran, on the other hand, was fidgeting nervously in the corner. His hands kept brushing against the edges of the research equipment, as if touching it would somehow make the danger disappear. He glanced at Alara, hoping for reassurance. "Do you really think they'll come tonight?" he asked, voice trembling. Alara didn't look up. She spoke in a calm, measured tone, as if she were explaining a simple fact rather than imminent danger. "They're already here, Joran. They've been watching longer than you realize." The words hung in the air, heavy but strangely soothing. Joran's stomach tightened. "But how did you know?" "I didn't even see anyone. No lights, no signs." Alara finally lifted her eyes from the screen. Her gaze was steady, almost serene, and it unsettled him more than any warning could. "Because I expected them. From the day we started working on the neural interface, I knew our project would attract attention. Intelligence like ours doesn't stay hidden for long, especially when it touches something bigger than us." Joran swallowed hard. He had always trusted Alara's judgment, but this was different. Her calmness felt unnatural, almost otherworldly. "What do you mean, something bigger than us?" Alara returned to her screen, fingers dancing across the holographic keyboard. "The interface isn't just a research tool, Joran. It enhances the mind. Not just memory or problem-solving, but intuition, strategy, perception. It lets a human anticipate patterns, predict actions before they happen. That is what made us valuable and dangerous." Before Joran could respond, a deep rumble shook the apartment. The lights flickered. Somewhere in the corridor, a metallic crash echoed. He froze, his heart pounding. "They're here." Alara didn't flinch. She closed her eyes for a brief moment as if listening to the vibrations in the air, then spoke softly. "Not yet. Watch and learn. Panic won't help us." The door to the apartment shattered in a sudden explosion of steel and sparks. Blue uniformed enforcers, the infamous bluecoats, poured in, weapons raised. Their movements were precise, practiced, and cold. Most humans would have screamed or tried to run, but not Alara. She remained seated, almost statuesque, as if she were conducting an experiment. "Step away from the console," the lead bluecoat barked, voice distorted through a filter in his helmet. "You are under surveillance for illegal research activities." Joran jumped to his feet, ready to argue, to explain, to plead. "We haven't done anything wrong. We are scientists, just studying alien neural patterns." Alara raised a hand, stopping him mid-sentence. "No, don't. Listen and observe. That's how we win." The bluecoats approached, their boots clanging against the metal floor. One of them reached for the console, trying to shut it down. Before he could, a small panel on the side slid open, revealing a hidden lock. Alara pressed a sequence of buttons, and the console began transmitting a scrambled signal that overloaded the bluecoats' tracking system. Joran blinked in awe. How did you know?" Alara gave a small smile, barely noticeable. "Because they are predictable. Watchers are always predictable. They follow rules. They rely on patterns. Humans, however, can change, adapt, innovate. That is why they will never see everything coming." The bluecoats hesitated, unsure why their sensors were failing. That moment of confusion was all Alara needed. She tapped another hidden sequence on the console. A thin, metallic floor panel slid open beneath a nearby table, revealing a small escape route. "Joran," she whispered, still calm, "you take the left corridor. I'll take the right. Trust your instincts. They've been trained to follow rules, not human unpredictability." But Joran stammered. "No buts. Move." Alara's tone left no room for argument. As Joran ran, the bluecoats began regrouping, shouting orders. Yet Elara remained seated for another moment, observing, calculating. One of the enforcers aimed a scanner at her. The machine beeped erratically, its readings scrambled by the interface's interference. Finally, Elara stood. She moved with deliberate calm, her every step measured, almost graceful. She glanced at the blue coats, then at the open floor panel, and for the first time allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. The corridor swallowed her. The hum of the life support systems faded behind her, replaced by the echo of footsteps and distant alarms. She could hear Joran ahead navigating the twists and turns she had memorized for months. Somewhere deep in the colony, a pair of blue coats paused. "She's too calm," one whispered into his communicator. "It's like she knows everything we'll do next." "That's impossible," the other replied. "No human can, but Elara already knew." And that knowledge made her calm, even as the threat closed in. She had anticipated this moment long before the bluecoats had stepped foot in her lab. Every move, every action, they were already part of her plan. She reached a junction in the corridor and paused, listening. The faint hum of a security drone passed overhead. She pressed a hidden button on her wrist device, sending a signal to a small cache of supplies hidden behind a wall panel. Inside were food, water, and essential tools, everything Joran would need if the chase lasted longer than expected. When she finally reunited with him, he was breathing hard but focused. I can't believe you thought of all this," he said, eyes wide. "You will believe it soon enough. Humans are not just survivors, Joran. We are thinkers, planners, adapters. That is what gives us an edge, even against forces that think themselves superior." Joran nodded slowly, beginning to understand. The panic inside him was still there, but it was tempered by awe. They were not powerless. They were clever, resourceful, and prepared. The distant echo of bluecoat boots reminded them that the danger was real. Yet, for the first time, they did not feel helpless. The humans had been underestimated, and that mistake would soon cost the Watchers dearly. Elara led the way, her steps confident, her mind calculating. Every twist of the corridor, every shadow, every sound was part of the map she had memorized. Every obstacle had been anticipated. And as they moved deeper into the hidden labyrinth beneath the colony, one thought remained at the forefront of her mind. The bluecoats were watching, but they had already lost. Because humans, calm, clever, and fearless, were never truly predictable, and Elara had already won the first round. The hidden corridor beneath the colony stretched like a dark spine through the heart of the abandoned mining complex. Metal walls hummed faintly from long-forgotten machinery, and pipes ran overhead like veins carrying some silent life force. Elara moved ahead, her steps quiet, precise, as if she had walked this path 1,000 times. Behind her, Joran stumbled slightly, trying to keep pace, his breath sharp in the still air. "I still don't understand," Joran whispered, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "How did they find us so fast?" "I mean, we were careful, right?" Elara did not stop walking. Her gaze was fixed on the dimly glowing end of the corridor. "They didn't just find us," she said. "They were waiting, watching. Every experiment, every message, every moment we thought we were alone, they knew." Joran shivered. "I feel violated, like we never had privacy." Elara finally slowed, placing a hand on a smooth metal panel. She pressed it twice, and the wall slid open, revealing a small alcove bathed in faint green light. "That's because we didn't," she said. "But knowledge, Joran, knowledge can turn fear into power." Inside the alcove, she gestured to a small table stacked with data pads, tools, and a portable transmitter.
"We are about to test that idea."
Joran's eyes widened.
"Test it?"
"What do you mean?" Elara tapped the pad, bringing up a holographic map of the colony. Tiny blue and red markers moved across the display. The bluecoats, their patrols, drones, and sensor units. Every movement, every predictable path, they were all visible now. "They think they control the surveillance," Elara said. "But every pattern has flaws. Every predictable path has an opening. That is what humans exploit. That is why we are never truly prey." Joran leaned closer, fascination replacing fear. "You mean we can see them before they see us?" "Yes," she said, her tone calm but firm. "And not just see them. We can anticipate them, predict what they will do next. And if necessary, we can redirect them." She tapped the pad again, and a small holographic drone lifted from the table, buzzing silently. It projected a series of pulses that interfered with the bluecoats' tracking systems. Joran watched in amazement as several patrol markers suddenly froze or veered off course. They're already confused, Alara said. That's the advantage. Humans don't follow rigid rules. We adapt. We improvise. That is what gives us an edge, even against superior forces. Joran took a deep breath, finally letting a smile appear. I can't believe this. We're outsmarting them? Alara nodded. Not outsmarting them completely. Not yet. But we are leveling the playing field. And that is enough for now. Their moment of relief was short-lived. A sudden alarm echoed through the corridor, a low, metallic wail that reverberated through the walls. Joran stiffened. They found us again? Alara's eyes narrowed, but she did not panic. She scanned the map. Not exactly. A drone must have picked up a signal, but it's temporary. We can use this. How? Joran asked, panic rising in his voice. Alara gestured to a small door leading deeper into the labyrinth. We will lead them to the chamber below the old reactor. It is unstable. A perfect trap. If they follow blindly, they will expose themselves. And if they hesitate, we gain time. Joran's jaw dropped. A trap? You're going to trick the bluecoats into a trap? Exactly. Alara's tone was calm, almost detached. They rely on rules, predictable patterns. That is why humans can turn a disadvantage into an advantage. Watch carefully, Joran. Learn. You will need this knowledge. They moved quickly, following the twists and turns of the corridor. The faint hum of distant machinery and the occasional clank of loose metal kept Joran on edge. Every shadow seemed alive, every noise amplified in the silence. Yet Alara remained focused, guiding him like a teacher leading a student through a lesson in survival. As they reached a wider chamber, she stopped. The space was littered with old machinery, cables dangling from the ceiling, and a faint green glow from alien bioluminescent growths. Here, she said, we can observe without being observed. Alara activated a series of sensors hidden in the walls. Holographic images of the bluecoats' positions appeared in the air, moving like chess pieces. Joran leaned in, studying the patterns. They're organized, he said. Every step seems planned. How can humans beat that? Alara smiled slightly. Because humans are not machines. We don't follow patterns. We predict them, yes, but we also improvise. Watch this. She pressed a sequence on her wrist device. Tiny pulses spread across the chamber, creating a mirage that reflected their movements. To the bluecoats, it looked like two humans moving in one direction while they were actually taking another. A few patrol markers adjusted their paths, clearly confused. See, Alara said, confusion slows them, and hesitation kills efficiency. That is how humans survive against forces that think they are superior.
Joran nodded, slowly understanding.
It's like we're playing 4D chess, and they don't even know the rules. Alara allowed herself a small grin. Exactly. Suddenly, the alarm grew louder. The bluecoats were reorganizing, their sensors recalibrating. One of them spoke into a communicator. They are manipulating the signals. I repeat, the humans are manipulating the signals. Alara leaned closer to Joran. And now we wait. Humans are patient. We do not act out of fear, we act out of opportunity. They will make a mistake. Minutes passed. The bluecoats moved cautiously, their patrols now more hesitant, slower. Their pattern had been disrupted, and it was visible. Alara analyzed the paths, predicting where they would go next. There, she whispered, pointing at a weak junction in their patrol grid. They will converge here. If we time it correctly, they will walk right into the chamber we prepared. And from there, she did not need to finish. Joran understood. From there, we escape? He asked. Alara shook her head. From there, we gain the upper hand. Escape is secondary. Survival is secondary. Knowledge is primary. If they think they control the situation, they will reveal everything. Positions, weaknesses, divisions. That is what we are here for. Joran's respect for Alara deepened. He had always known she was brilliant, but this was beyond ingenuity. She was turning fear, anticipation, and surveillance against the very people who sought to control them. A faint vibration passed through the floor. Alara's hand went to a hidden panel on her wrist. She activated a low-frequency pulse that interfered with the bluecoats' comms. Voices were distorted, orders miscommunicated. Perfect, she said. Now, they are blind. Their own rules are trapping them. Joran swallowed, excitement and fear mingling. How did you know this would work? Alara's eyes softened. but her voice remained calm. Because humans are not predictable. Machines and soldiers follow orders. We adapt. And adaptation is more powerful than strength. The bluecoats moved closer to the chamber entrance. Alara adjusted the holographic mirage, creating a decoy image of herself and Joran in another corridor. Several patrol markers veered toward it, leaving the main junction unguarded. Now, she whispered, we move. They slipped silently into the chamber below the old reactor. The air was thick with the smell of metal and decay. Pipes ran overhead, dripping condensation onto the cold floor. At the far end, a network of catwalks and machinery offered multiple escape routes, but more importantly, it was a perfect vantage point. Alara activated a small projector, revealing the approaching bluecoats. They moved carefully, unaware that they were being guided into her trap. Joran's heart raced, but he trusted her completely. Remember, she said softly, this is not luck. This is preparation, observation, and patience. Humans survive not by running blindly, but by thinking, predicting, and acting with precision. That is why we will always find a way. As the bluecoats stepped into the chamber, the lights flickered. A section of the floor emitted a low-frequency pulse, forcing them to hesitate. Machinery groaned. For the first time, hesitation replaced confidence. And in that pause, Alara and Joran had every advantage. She looked at him, calm as ever. Watch, learn, and remember. This is how humans turn surveillance into opportunity. This is how humans survive. Joran nodded, awestruck. For the first time, he understood. They were not just running, teaching themselves and teaching the bluecoats that humans were more than prey. Humans were unpredictable, clever and unstoppable when united in purpose, and in the shadows of the old reactor, the first seeds of victory were quietly planted. The old reactor chamber was dark and humming with the faint vibrations of long-abandoned machinery. Pipes twisted across the ceiling like giant metallic vines, dripping condensation onto the cold floor below. Alara and Joran crouched behind a stack of rusted crates, their eyes fixed on the patrol of bluecoats moving cautiously through the chamber. They're slow now, Joran whispered, trying to keep his voice down. Do you think we can take them? Alara shook her head slightly. Not yet. The goal isn't to fight them directly. The goal is to make them reveal themselves, make them follow our rules, not theirs. Watch carefully. Joran's brow furrowed in confusion, but he trusted her. She had guided them through the corridors, anticipated every move, and disrupted every patrol. If anyone could turn the hunters into prey, it was Alara. Alara tapped a small wrist device. A low-frequency pulse vibrated through the floor, causing the boots of the approaching bluecoats to slip slightly. Some stumbled. Others hesitated, checking their sensors. She smiled faintly. See? Hesitation is our ally. Every second they doubt themselves, we gain control. Joran nodded, adrenaline mixed with awe. It's like chess. 4-dimensional chess, Alara corrected, her eyes scanning the holographic map projected faintly in the air. Each bluecoat's path was traced with precision. And they are walking right into our plan. Ahead, a group of bluecoats paused at the junction, clearly trying to decide which corridor to take. Alara pressed another button, and a faint holographic duplicate of herself appeared in a side passage. The decoy moved deliberately, making noise that would draw the bluecoats' attention. Several soldiers veered off the main path, leaving the center corridor exposed. Now, she whispered to Joran, we move. They slipped silently across the floor, hidden in the shadows. The decoy had bought them precious seconds, and Alara intended to use everyone. The deeper they went, the more complex the chamber became. Catwalks, vents, machinery stacks, all creating opportunities for misdirection. A sudden clang echoed from above. One of the bluecoats had noticed the decoy, but it was too late. Alara had already predicted the reaction. She tapped another panel on her wrist, triggering a series of lights and vibrations across the chamber floor. The soldiers froze, scanning for threats, completely unaware that the humans had already shifted position. Joran's heart raced. How can they be so blind? They're trained to follow orders, not adapt, Alara replied calmly. Humans think differently. We improvise. That's the difference. Ahead, a narrow walkway offered a perfect vantage point. Alara led the way, carefully balancing across the metal grates. Joran followed, clinging to the railing. Below, the bluecoats moved methodically, expecting the humans to behave like prey. But humans were unpredictable. Elara paused at the edge of the walkway and pressed another sequence on her wrist. A panel above the main corridor released a thin spray of mist, reflecting the dim green light and creating illusions of movement. Several bluecoats stopped, confused. Others communicated urgently, but the signals were scrambled by the interference pulses Elara had said earlier.
Joran whispered, "You're controlling everything."
"I'm not controlling them," she said softly. "I'm guiding them. They're playing into the scenario we've created. Every hesitation, every misstep is a gift."
"Watch and learn."
A few minutes passed. The bluecoats reorganized, trying to recalibrate their sensors. Elara scanned the chamber and identified the moment of opportunity. "Now," she said. She triggered a hidden catwalk panel, causing a section of floor to shift slightly beneath the soldiers. They stumbled forward, momentarily off balance. One of them tried to shout, but the voice was caught in the mist and vibrations, making it incomprehensible. Elara and Jorn moved swiftly, slipping through a narrow side corridor that led toward the reactor core. Sparks flew from exposed wires above as they navigated the maze, but they remained calm, every step calculated. Jorn gasped, "I can't believe this. We're actually outsmarting them." Elara glanced at him. "It's not luck. It's preparation, observation, and human ingenuity. Remember this, Joran? This is how humans survive where others fail." Ahead, the corridor opened into a larger chamber with several catwalks and suspended platforms. The bluecoats had followed, but now they were disoriented. The chamber's complexity worked in the humans' favor. Elara guided Joran to a high platform, giving them a clear view of the soldiers below. She tapped another panel. Lights flickered across the floor, casting long shadows and creating illusions of multiple humans in motion. The bluecoats hesitated, unsure which shadows were real. "This is our advantage," Elara said quietly. "They rely on clarity and certainty. We give them neither." Joran took a deep breath, beginning to understand the strategy. "So we don't fight them directly. We make them fight themselves." "Exactly," she replied. "And every moment they waste on hesitation is a moment we gain for freedom and knowledge." The bluecoats moved cautiously, one by one stepping into the areas Elara had predicted. Tiny vibrations triggered by her devices forced minor missteps, slowing their progress. She activated a holographic interface tracking each movement and projecting illusions that split their attention. Joran whispered, "It's working. They're falling for it." Elara nodded. "Humans survive not by strength alone. We survive by intelligence, by patience, by turning every disadvantage into an advantage. That is why we will endure." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the chamber. One of the bluecoats had stepped onto an unstable panel which tilted slightly under his weight. He barely managed to regain balance, but the movement set off a chain reaction. A small cluster of crates toppled, creating a barrier between the remaining soldiers and the humans. Jorn's eyes widened. "They're trapped." Elara smiled faintly. "Temporarily. That's all we need. Now we use their confusion to escape." They moved carefully across the platform, heading toward a maintenance ladder that led to a hidden exit above. Every step was deliberate, avoiding loose wires and unstable metal.
Below, the bluecoats were trying to reorganize, but their coordination was faltering. Each hesitation was a victory for the humans.
As they reached the ladder, Joran glanced down. "Elara, we're actually going to get out of this." Elara's calm eyes met his. "Not just out. We're gaining the upper hand. Remember, Joran, humans do not simply survive. We adapt. We outthink. We endure. And that is how we win battles that seem impossible." They climbed quickly, reaching a narrow maintenance corridor that led outside the reactor chamber. The cold air of the mining colony greeted them, mixed with the faint hum of distant machinery. For a moment they paused, catching their breath, listening. The bluecoats were regrouping below, unaware of the humans' position. Elara glanced at Joran. "They think they control the situation. That's their mistake." Joran nodded, a mixture of excitement and relief on his face. "So what now?" "Now," Elara said, "we make them chase shadows while we prepare the next step. Every move they make is already anticipated. Every hesitation, every doubt, it works in our favor. And soon they will realize they are not hunting humans. Humans are guiding them." The auroras shimmered above the colony, casting green and violet light across the metal structures. Elara allowed herself a small smile. The first stage of their counterstrike had succeeded. They had not only survived, but they had turned surveillance into an advantage, hesitation into opportunity. Joran glanced at her, awe in his eyes. I can't believe how calm you are, even with them so close. Alara placed a hand on his shoulder. Calm is not fear. Calm is preparation, Joran. Calm is knowing that humans are never truly powerless. They may be stronger, faster, better armed, but we have minds, and minds can change the outcome of any battle. They moved silently through the corridors, shadows among shadows, while the bluecoats below struggled to regain order. Alara's confidence never wavered. She had anticipated every patrol, every hesitation, every possible reaction, and as they disappeared deeper into the labyrinth of the colony, one truth remained clear. Humans were clever, humans were adaptable, and humans could survive and triumph where others could not. And in that moment, Joran realized something profound. It was not just strategy that gave humans an edge. It was courage, calm, and intelligence combined. It was the unyielding human spirit. And that spirit would carry them through the next stage of the fight. The cold wind of the mining colony swept through the exposed corridors as Alara and Joran moved silently. Above them, the auroras shimmered like restless spirits, casting green and violet shadows over the metallic structures. Every step they took had been calculated, every breath measured. The bluecoats below were regrouping, but they had no idea how close the humans were to complete escape. Alara paused, placing her hand on a wall panel. We need to split up here. They'll expect us to stick together. Humans are predictable in unity, but not in separation. One goes left, one goes right. Joran hesitated. But if we separate, what if they catch me? Alara gave a faint smile. Trust your instincts. Trust what you've learned. You are not prey. You are human. And humans can turn fear into action, doubt into strategy. Now go. Joran nodded, swallowing his fear. He darted down the left corridor, moving silently, relying on the lessons Alara had already taught him. Every shadow, every reflection, every vibration of the floor told him more than any map could. Alara moved to the right. Her calm demeanor never faltered. Each corridor she passed was familiar, yet she remained alert. The bluecoats had split their forces, leaving gaps and blind spots that she exploited with precision. Holographic decoys, low-frequency pulses, and carefully timed shadows guided the enemy away from her true path. Ahead, a patrol unit blocked the main corridor. They were armed, efficient, and confident, but confidence was their weakness. Alara crouched behind a maintenance panel and observed. She pressed a hidden button on her wrist device, releasing a small cloud of reflective mist. The lights above fractured the image of herself, creating multiple illusions of movement. The bluecoats hesitated, scanning, unsure which shadow was real. One stepped forward, then back, unsure of where to go. Alara smiled slightly. Patience was her weapon. Humans were masters of observation and calculation, and these soldiers were walking into their own confusion. From a hidden vent, she released a small drone that projected false heat signatures and motion readings. The bluecoats scrambled, chasing shadows that were not there. Some signaled to their companions, but the interference scrambled their communication. Chaos spread quietly among them, without any direct confrontation. Meanwhile, Joran had reached the left corridor exit, which led to a narrow maintenance ladder climbing toward the surface. He paused, catching his breath, and glanced down at the sprawling colony below. The bluecoats were still below, struggling to reorganize. He smiled faintly. Humans were clever. They always found a way. Alara reached her ladder moments later. From her vantage point, she could see the full extent of the bluecoats' disarray. Their forces were divided, their coordination faltering. Some soldiers hesitated at corridors she had predicted would confuse them. Others retraced steps, unsure if they were being tricked. She activated a small transmitter, sending a signal to a hidden cache she had prepared weeks earlier. It contained emergency supplies, additional tools, and a lightweight reconnaissance craft designed for quick escapes. Even if the bluecoats caught one of them, the knowledge of their work and the evidence of their research would survive. As she waited, she felt a ripple of tension in the air. A patrol had spotted a faint shimmer of movement. Alara smiled. They would follow instinct, and instinct would lead them exactly where she wanted. The patrol moved cautiously toward a side corridor. Alara's wrist device triggered a low-frequency pulse under their boots. The vibrations caused one soldier to stumble, and the sequence of events she had anticipated began to unfold perfectly. Each misstep amplified hesitation. Every hesitation gave her time. From above, she saw Joran descending onto a narrow catwalk leading toward the colony's outer perimeter. She signaled with a small light pulse, letting him know where she was. Their paths would converge at the hidden reconnaissance craft, As she moved toward him, a lone bluecoat broke off from the group, moving directly toward her. Calmly, she assessed him. He was skilled but predictable, relying on training rather than adaptation. Alara pressed another panel on her wrist. The floor beneath him emitted a subtle vibration. He faltered, barely catching his balance, giving her enough space to slip past unnoticed. Joran was ahead now, reaching the craft. It was small, barely larger than a shuttle pod, but equipped for quick escape and minimal detection. He tapped the control panel, initiating the pre-programmed route toward the outer rim of the colony, away from the main base. Alara reached him moments later. Together they climbed inside. The hatch sealed behind them, and the engines hummed softly, almost whispering their escape. From the ground below, the bluecoats regrouped, finally realizing the humans had vanished. Panic rippled through the soldiers. They had underestimated the humans' ingenuity, patience, and strategic thinking. Alara activated the craft's cloaking interface, making them nearly invisible to sensors. As they ascended above the colony, the auroras of the alien sky spread out beneath them like a sea of light. The outer colony sparkled faintly in the distance. For the first time, they were truly free from immediate pursuit. Joran let out a long breath.
We did it.
We actually escaped. Alara's eyes remained calm, scanning the horizon. Not just escaped, we turned the hunters into the hunted. Every move they made we anticipated. Every hesitation, every doubt, it was ours to use. That is human ingenuity, Joran smiled. I understand now. Humans are clever. We survive where others fail. Yes, Alara agreed. And this is only the beginning. The knowledge we carry, the lessons we've learned today, they will empower others. Humanity cannot be underestimated. Not by aliens, not by soldiers, not by anyone who assumes we are merely prey. They navigated the reconnaissance craft through the auroras, slipping past distant patrols and sensor grids. Below, the mining colony receded, a web of metal and light slowly disappearing beneath them. Alara activated a secure communication channel, sending encrypted data to a distant outpost. It contained every finding, every observation, every lesson about the alien neural interfaces and the Bluecoats' tactics. Even if they were pursued and captured tomorrow, the knowledge would survive. Humanity would not be stopped. Joran looked at her, admiration shining in his eyes. I never realized humans could be so capable. Alara's voice was calm, yet carried an edge of inspiration. We are always capable, Joran. We adapt, we think, we endure. That is why humans survive. That is why humans thrive. And that is why humans will always find a way. As they reached the outer rim of the colony, the first light of the distant sun broke across the horizon, casting long shadows over the barren terrain. The auroras faded, replaced by the gentle glow of the morning. The Bluecoats would regroup, yes, but they had been taught a lesson. Humans could never be fully controlled or predicted. Alara glanced at Joran. We will find another place to continue our work. A safer place, and others will follow.
Humans are resilient. Humans are clever.
And humans are never truly alone. The craft rose into the sky, disappearing into the layers of atmosphere above the alien world. Below, the colony remained silent and empty. The Bluecoats would learn the cost of underestimating humans. And above, Alara and Joran watched the horizon, knowing that their fight was far from over. But they were ready, calm, clever, and determined. Humans had survived, humans had adapted, and humans had triumphed. The auroras of the alien world shimmered one last time beneath them, a reminder that even in darkness, intelligence, courage, and ingenuity could light the way. In that moment, the universe witnessed the human spirit in its purest form, calm in the face of danger, clever in the shadow of superior forces, and unstoppable when united with purpose. And Alara knew, with absolute certainty, that humanity had already won the first battle.